I continue to make a horror game about space. I think you understand that if this is a sequel, then there is a first part. It all starts with the fact that I need to fix a bunch of bugs and set up artificial intelligence. You might ask, who needs artificial intelligence? I think you get the idea. This is the second creature on your ship. I think those who have already tried to play my game on itch.io have already realized who we are talking about. In the last video, I did not show what the cause of all the terrible things that happen on your ship looks like. Here it is. I had an idea for a gameplay related to this creature almost immediately, and it's already partially implemented in the previous version, but it's necessary to finalize some logic and to fix a significant number of bugs and incorrect behavior. Your ship has 7 rooms. The main one is the cockpit. You spend most of your time in it because you need to control the ship and fly to the desired destination. Hence, we determined that this room should be the main target of your enemy. The enemy itself will work as follows. First, one of the 2 side rooms is randomly selected, and he appears outside one of the windows of your ship. Don't ask me how he gets inside the ship. Then, every few seconds, the number of which depends on the difficulty, this creature has a chance to move to the next room, and a very small chance to go back, or change location to the opposite window, if it's standing behind one. If the door to the exit of the room is locked, the creature will try to break something in the room, thereby luring the player to open the door and enter the room, or it will directly try to open the door or turn off the power to the ship altogether, which will open all the doors at once. Now, in the case of a door with a PIN code, it will try to crack that PIN code, which is much harder than the previous things. As we know, the PIN code is on the door leading to the pilot's room, which is the final but most difficult obstacle. When the creature enters the pilot's room, it can also do all sorts of bad things, such as turn off the lights, turn on the alarm, turn off the pilot panel, or something like that. You will hear footsteps or breathing behind you, so you are unlikely to miss his appearance. Additionally, you can see his location on a panel displaying the number of creatures on the ship. For now, this panel replaces CCTV cameras. Now, as you can imagine, this creature does not actually pose a direct threat to the player, meaning it cannot kill him on its own, only by changing the temperature or oxygen level on the ship. I thought for a long time whether to leave it as a passive threat, or to make it capable of killing the player. After all, in the previous video I said that, in my opinion, the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown, and we need to hide the threat as long as possible, giving only hints about it at first. In the end, I decided that this is primarily a game that should also provide at least some kind of challenge. That's why this alien now has an aggressive mode, during which the player has to hide from it. And this also makes it more meaningful to leave the pilot's room because there is nowhere to hide in there. What happens when this creature catches you? Obviously, something like a screamer. It's a horror game after all. Despite the fact that I didn't want to add screamers at all, I guess I have no choice here. That's it for the enemy. So let's move on to more global updates. All this scary stuff is cool, but there is literally no reason for the player to complete tasks or even be on this ship, apart from the fact that he is literally locked in it forever. The entire game space is a ship. In addition, if I want to increase the length of the game session, and the time it takes to complete the game in general, I can't just add new checkpoints that the player needs to fly to. It would be too boring. I want to make a full-fledged story of a spaceship pilot who needs to complete tasks, buy supplies, and upgrade equipment to reach a certain goal. We'll talk about the goal later. I've already described the gameplay cycle scheme, so I will not repeat it. To begin with, you need to add a station, in other words a hub, which will be the starting point and a kind of home for the player. I already have such a station, I just need to fix the interaction with it and fill it with something. Once again, many thanks to my friend for his help with the models, as it has greatly accelerated the process. For now, only 2 rooms will be available because I don't want to do this update for a few more months. These will be the station manager's room and the technical room. In general, I tried to create the atmosphere of a futuristic office space designed to receive station visitors. By the way, I'm already preparing the ground for multiplayer. If you are really interested in game or the idea itself, sooner or later I will be forced to add it. Let's get back to updating the station. We have the content, now we need to make some sense out of it. What opportunities will the player have at the station? In short, receiving tasks and rewards for their completion, improving your ship, buying consumables such as food, repair boxes, first aid kits, and so on, refueling oxygen and fuel, recharging the ship, sharing information such as explanations of mechanics, places of hiding, or points of interest, plot details, and so on. I'm starting with ship upgrades, which is probably the most difficult and interesting thing to implement out of all of the above. I have a model of an upgrade station, and it will be the center of their purchase and viewing. And when designing the interface, for some reason I remembered the Vim interface, a code editor program that I once tried to use when studying programming, and in my opinion, it makes sense, because now the player can see which button is responsible for what, and in general, this looks a bit like the aesthetics of a developer panel. At the moment, this station will have upgrades for fuel capacity, oxygen, battery power, and engine quality. I think it's pretty clear about the capacity. A better engine will consume less fuel and have a higher acceleration rate and maximum thrust. I even made a graph of fuel consumption at a certain thrust level for each engine earlier. Now I will use this graph as one of the elements for improvement. Obviously, if I mention the term purchase, there must be currency for which the player will buy. For now, this currency will be dollars, but later I'm thinking of replacing them with the usual coins without a name, just like I did in my Bit Galaxy game. So each upgrade will not only have consequences for these characteristics, but will also change the appearance of the ship. In my case, the corresponding parts will change. For each upgrade level, they will have a different look, or their number will change. After making upgrades, the player will have access to more dangerous and distant missions, which is logical, because without improvements, there is simply not enough fuel or oxygen. Again, I haven't done everything I had planned, but this is enough for now. The next important thing is to have the ability to replenish the ship's resources. After a long journey, you should have a small amount of consumables left, and you will need to spend money to refuel and recharge to complete the next task. To do this, I will place refueling terminals at the exit of the station. In case the player forgets about it, they will stand in a prominent place and remind him of themselves. Another aspect that the player needs to monitor is hunger. To begin with, and make the food disappear when it's eaten. I will also add 2 more types of food and texture variations for them. Great! Now I need to figure out how to restore the food in your fridge. I don't see any other options than to add item carry. After all, you will buy it at the station, and then you need to somehow transfer it to your ship. I don't know why, but I like it when games have objects with physics and interaction with them. I have no idea if this is the correct implementation of this mechanic, but it seems to work as expected, so I'm leaving it like this. To buy food, I came up with the idea of making vending machines. We need to take these cabinets and put these machines in their place. And you have 3 options of food that you can buy, from the most expensive to the cheapest, which give you the right amount of satiety for the price. I set the prices at random. It's a matter of balance that I'll solve last. It seems that the mechanics for spending money are in place. Now let's move on to an equally interesting stage. I'm talking about quests and the general storyline. The general idea is to make a set of different tasks and generate a list of available tasks to choose from. I think there will be 3 tasks to choose from, the complexity of which will directly depend on the player's progress, and who or what will give tasks to the player. It seemed to me that it would be boring to make a simple task panel. Besides, there should be at least some service personnel at the station. Therefore, this staff will be represented in the form of bots or droids. First of all, I will definitely not be able to make a normal human model, and secondly, I will not be able to make normal animations for this person, and in the end, he will still look like a robot. And yes, this is the same bot from the game icon and the poster in the kitchen. I added him at the initial stages of development. There was just no reason to show it. I place him as a station manager in my room and make an animation of following the player when the last enters the trigger zone. I also need to add glow. Now I need to implement interaction with him. I want to do something similar to RPG games, where when you interact with an NPC, the camera zooms in and focuses on him, and there will be a dialog box on the side. As you know, I already have focus animations, so it wasn't such a difficult task. Instead of answer options, I made something similar to the console, and it obviously needs ChatGPT to be added as a conversator brain for this bot. I've already implemented such a system in Unity in the past, but I'm not ready to pay for every single prompt sent to this bot. Perhaps this is an idea for a video in the future. For now, it will have a list of commands that you can see in the tooltip. This list of commands will change and be updated as you progress through the game. Maybe someone will be interested in reading what I wrote here, I don't know. The way it works is that it reads the entered command, searches for it in the list of available commands, and gives some kind of response, either just text or some kind of action. Thus, I want to make a request for a task that will open a panel for selecting an available task with brief information about it. So far, I don't have a resource to work with, talking about models, so these tasks will be traveling to a certain point and returning back. As I said, with each completed task, their complexity will increase, as well as the complexity of the creature I was fixing at the beginning of the video. As a result, I have an RPG-like game with horror elements, where you don't have specific goals yet. You just experience the story of an ordinary pilot whose life directly depends on his ship. Isolated in Hail is not so much isolated now, until it comes to the tasks. And as for the missions, I already have a few ideas on how to make them original and not boring, but it would be nice to hear from you if you have any ideas on this.